Let's get into our next program, which is into the panel talk on biotechnology. My guests today are Ramjee Pallel, who is the COO of AICCCMB. Hello, Ramjee Garu. Namaskar. My next guest is Lakshmipati, who is the founder of Mabag Jennings. And then my third guest is Vinita, who's the co-founder of Physics Expo 44. Welcome all. Welcome to the show. Let's
So,
start with you, Vinita. If you could tell us, about Physics 44. What is it all about?
Yeah, so I'll start with the name of the startup, Fix 44. Fix 44, as the name suggests, this is basically for fixed carbon dioxide. So we are into a domain which is called as alternative protein domain, which is trying to elevate the negative carbon footprint of the animal farm industry. So you would have already heard about plant proteins and all those things, which are kind of replacing the animal proteins. But we are a deep tech startup where we are trying to get the same animal proteins in the microbes, so that the taste wise, functionality wise, unlike the plant proteins, these are exactly the same animal proteins which we generally consume. The only difference is that we are trying to get it into the microscopes, and it involves a lot of technology. The technology is similar to what we have already is there, recombinant protein production, like for the example, insulin generally which the diabetic people use, or various biologics. So the technology is somewhat similar. The challenge is the scale, because insulin few mgs is enough. I mean, and people would be ready to pay for it. We are mostly focusing on the dairy proteins. So what we want is we want to reach where we can say, okay, we are replacing right now the dairy which is coming from the animals. So that is the challenge which we have to cross.
Given that India is predominantly a vegetarian country, a dairy protein makes much more sense, isn't it, Ramjee Garu?
no, in fact, adding on to the Vanita's great works, India having its strengths, traditional and Ayurveda foods, and also having the resources. And from the pandemic times, I think, the food and nutrition area, okay, the cosmeceuticals and nutraceuticals area is also just growing exponentially. In that sense, yes, this is the right time that these kind of startups can actually add much value to fill those gaps of protein and other supplements. Yeah.
Very true, and this is what we have seen, as you rightly brought out. Post pandemic, there is a huge push among people towards Ayurveda and natural.
Yes.
So coming to you, Lakshmipati Garu, tell us about your startup venture. What is it into?
Hi, I'm Lakshmipati. I'm the co-founder of Mabgenix Private Limited. Similar to what everybody is trying to do now, we are trying to move away from natural resources which are finite and go to an in vitro biotechnology type of technology where we can have infinite resources. So we are basically a biologics company. Our thrust is in the production of development of monoclonal antibodies against diseases of interest to India. Normally, when we try to produce antibodies, we have to immunize animals with the protein of interest and get antibodies out of those animals and then purify and everything. So this adds a level of complexity where animal host proteins can interfere and cause severe allergic reactions within our body. So as an alternative to animal immunizations, what we are doing is set up a platform technology where all the possible antibodies are already synthesized in bacteria or in yeast, and just we have to identify the correct antibody using our antigen of interest. For example, we can use anti-venom, for example. We can use venom components of any of the snakes and just use that as a kind of fishing rod to get the antibody that can neutralize neutralize the venom components. So we have the platform technology already established, and we are, identifying antibodies against many diseases of particularly of interest to India.
What stage are you at, Lakshmi Garu? I mean, have you are the trials on? Have you already have MVP? What stage are you in?
We are actually at the preclinical stage. We have not gone to a trial stage yet. We have the antibodies in hand, but even before we go to the clinical trials or anything, we have to first test whether our antibodies are safe. Naturally, they are safe, but still we have to do it practically and show that not only these are safe, but they are also able to do the work they are supposed to do. Like, for example, if you take anti-venom, they have to neutralize the venom toxins. So even before we go for clinical trials, we have to do a preclinical stage, and that is where we are in right now.
Ramji Garu, when you talk about antigens and our immune system or the trials that happen, ethical, the issues of ethical comes up in a big way. What's your take on that?
Yes, it's a good question because most of the biotech or almost everyone working in the biotech and life sciences domain, especially related to the healthcare, they need to follow certain dossiers of ethical clearances. If you can see, starting from the biosafety clearances or the institutional ethical clearances, what I mean to say, we have human ethics, animal ethics. So each step, will be guiding our startups to follow. And it's like a boon having a host organization like CCMB, where these startups that are incubated here, they no need to form separate committees for their companies. So they can actually root out these clearances with CCMB, and they actually get the ethical clearances and the paperwork in place so that they can go to the next level. And yes, next level of regulatory clearances and understanding, of course, we help them to help these startups by coordinating with such kind of regulatory agencies. So I think that's what I can actually answer at this moment.
Very true. So, just to remind our viewers, we are going live. This is our inaugural daily live show on MyStartupTV, which is an international channel, and MyStartupTV Regional, which is in 14 languages. And we have been watched in about 80 plus countries. Coming back to you, Vinita, you mentioned that you're in the in the dairy side of it. So, what's the scope for you, and what stage are you in?
So right now we had our proof of concept ready, and we are into a stage where we are going for product development. Our first approach is B2B, that is, we are looking for other businesses like, let's say, for example, yogurt making company, frozen desserts and all, who can take our protein, which is our product, and then kind of use in their products. So that's why right now we are for immediate challenge is the scale. When we talk about fermentation, so right now we are at a level where we are putting it in a 100-liter tank. But when you want, so that's when I said you want insulin in very small amount. When we are talking about dairy proteins, they are in grams per liter, right? So that's the stage we are in. We are at 100-liter. We want access to more fermenters and all. We can scale and get more protein so that we can give it to our partners for the product development.
Ramji Garu, so in scenarios like these where startups need support both in terms of marketing and sourcing products or their raw material ingredient that would go into their research or product development, what kind of support does AICCCMB provide?
So generally for a typical startup, I think, in the biotech and life science area, lot of, burn rate is in the consumables area. I mean, of course, manpower too, because skilled manpower is one, important factor for running such kind of startups to address some questions in the research and translation. So, I think, after the manpower cost, I think these consumables are taking up a lot of. So what we do is that we don't provide consumables, but actually the grants that support such kind of consumables or such kind of services, that we guide them. So the raw materials where they can get, we can guide them. Or even if someone want to develop a prototype, where that can be done, that design and prototyping. So we actually guide them. We can actually also negotiate with the vendors to actually subsidize some of the costs, or maybe reduce the cost, or give good discounts to them. So I think our role being an incubator, other than the equipment and services, we actually kind of help them, kind of reducing the burden in their material sourcing and consumables. Yeah.
To adding to Ramjee's saying, one of the most important factor in biotech research is also the kind of equipments we use, right? So if I have to start a startup right now, my immediate need for a mall bio thing would be like crossing 2 crores, 3 crores, right? If I have to buy each and every instrument, and even if it is a second-hand instruments, that is where again incubator centers like AICCCMB helps us, because everything is in place. There's we can use the equipments, and they are maintained so well, particularly at AICCCMB. So in that way, that's a huge help. We can't even start our work, our POC kind of thing, without that kind of support. And the next level is also like Ramjee particularly is very helpful in this thing, is like he's in that environment. There are the connections that is most important for a startup, right? I know how to be done, but I know to get to the right people. And that is where I think AIC, CCMB and people like Ramjee comes in, because sometimes we scientists are very comfortable at our bench, but the connections are to be made to if we have to run a business, and that's how it happens.
Just as you mentioned about the raw material, again, I have to, acknowledge the great works of our host organization. Some of the, clones, or some of the cell lines, okay, or some strains of microbes on a material transfer agreement mode, okay, exclusively and only for the research purposes, not for the commercial purposes. They extend the offers to our startups. So that is very much important, Sunil, that I'd like to highlight here, because incubator can be there, but they may not be able to provide such kind of facilities unless until you don't have such kind of greatest support by the host organization. That's where our director, Dr. Vinay Nandikuri, always says that uh, um, startups are just like our employees of CCMB. So whatever the resources that we have, whatever the infrastructure that we have, they are like family. We have to extend our best help for them. So just quickly to add this.
So, Lakshmati Garu, coming to you, as a startup, what's your timeline by the time you can have your first product out into the market?
Yeah, so especially in the field of biologics, the timelines are very big, simply because we have talked about this before also, where there are particular regulations where we cannot actually do human testing or clinical trials without passing through animal testing phase, or even a preclinical stage where we show in the laboratory itself that yes, our antibody is working. So for any, not just for a startup, for even an established company in the monoclonal antibody fields, the time it takes for development to the product to going to the market can be as high as 5 to 8 years. So our model of engagement is that we do the initial development, but then we request or we partner with a already established company so that they are much more faster, as well as much more knowledgeable about the kind of regulations that are required. So once we develop our product, most of the clinical testing or clinical trials will have to be done with the help of an established company in this particular field. Unfortunately, that is the truth for anything that goes into a human body, let it be a monoclonal antibody or any injectable, any drug that has to be taken. The timelines are quite big, actually. They are quite long.
Ramji Garu, this is a very interesting, situation where startups by nature don't have, deep pockets. and also given the fact that anything in biotechnology takes a lot of time. So would it be right way of approaching where startups bring up the initial do the initial part and then collaborate with some big partners, big players who can then not only help them scale but also the pace?
Yeah, I can actually answer this two ways. One is that the students or faculty or even the startups, if they have ideas, we try to help them validating their ideas, whether there is a feasibility of taking that idea towards market. So in that sense, we help them to pre-incubate with us or engage with our startups as well for about 2 weeks or a month or 2 months. And then they can actually work on that idea to, you know, make it as a small business plan or something like that. And then we guide them for raising grants. So that is one way to support at the initial stages, at the idea level. And then when they come here, or maybe outsiders also, any other freelance startups or any other startups at the TRL3 range, if they come here without grants also, we'll tell them, okay, this is the way to attract grants on your stage of technology or the productization. So this is a big boost for them. So at that, so always the startups need to remember, especially in this kind of deep tech domains, each level or each stage of your startup, you need different level of funding and also mentorships. So your advisors or mentors need to change on different levels. So ideation stage different and lab level, POC level is different. Validation partners to be there, or maybe outsourcing partners or outsourcing advisors or business people. And again, marketing and supply chain in case if you already reached to the pre-commercialization and commercialization stage. So my point here is that understanding or having that consciousness of uh, tapping into those particular funding scenarios is very much important. That's where we actually keep on triggering and try to point these factors to the startups to take it to the next level. Other than the funding, yes, you used a word actually. I liked it. Connecting to the right business players or channel partners. I think everybody may not be commercializing. So this point is very clear. A scientist can understand, or maybe a student can understand, or a startup even can understand. So before setting up a startup, everybody may not be an entrepreneur. They can be working with entrepreneurs and other startups. And every startup may not be doing its commercials. They can actually simply identify the other market players who can actually sell their technologies or transfer their technologies or form the JVs. I think these modalities are to be understood. Then I think, at least we can increase our startup success rate to from the 5% to 7% to even 10%. So that's what the message.
So, as MyStartup TV, a media house, we are doing our bit by providing the platform to startups, enablers, where we take your, the news from startup community, the startup ecosystem to the world out there. So, before I go, Vinita, what do you think? You know, Media platforms like ours, when we carry the stories, when we carry the news, or create the visibility, how do you see that?
So when we talk about biotech scenario or system, if you Google or find it out in the major news, established companies come about, like whenever you talk about biotech companies, there would be 10 top companies list which comes, and then beyond that there is like nothing. I mean, but it's, unless being a scientist, unless I came to AICCCMB and we started working with a startup, I didn't have an idea that there are so many startups working with such beautiful ideas. And so that is where I think TV channels, startup TV channels like yours will help, like students need to know there are more options for them. And the typical traditional pathways like academic or established company industries. But then when they come to us, there's a lot of growth, particularly when people who are working with a startup, there's a lot of growth. They will join and they get to know the ideas fit in a normal big company. Not all people get to know all the ideas. So in that way, you can go, your outreach will kind of, and apart from that, there's also like personally for a company like us, more people need to know that yes, we are developing a product, and so that what it will create is like, if you can spread the word, we will maybe at the end of the day have more consumers who are interested in our products, particularly in a country like India, where although people have started, there are vegans and all those things, and that is where people will get to know more about our products. First, if
That's
at
the
all, I'm
intent.
like, they
Where
know that the company is there, and then they can go and search. Yeah, so then they come to know about our products, and that's how it is. So
Well, that's the intent. That's the whole vision for and the mission of My Startup TV. Brings stories, showcase startups and incubators and enablers without without categorizing them or putting them to blocks of unicorns and unicorns. Ramji Garu, we have been interacting on at various levels and for a couple of years now. What do you think about platform like ours that can that's carrying the stories and showcasing the startup ecosystem?
Yeah. See, probably in 19 or I think around pre-pandemic times when I see something like My Startup TV, I was so quite excited. The first global global Bio India, right? GBI, yes. GBI started by Dadan, Secretary Swaroop, DBT, then My Startup TV started covering the road shows. Um, you know, it's not like, a typical commercial media that does, identifying who can pay and do cover them only. I think this is the uniqueness that I saw in My Startup TV, despite of having small sustainable or maybe small revenues that you actually look for maintaining or managing your team activities and your media activities. You actually reached out to all the stakeholders of the ecosystem, and that's where we understood this partnership can actually take it to the next level. That's where we engaged you for many of our activities, including the recent demo day, which is an awesome activity. We got a lot of response and many. I get several LinkedIn requests in the past 2 days, considering our social media presence through this coverage by My Startup TV. So it's an amazing journey where we would like to be part of it, Sunil, and we will be doing very different activities for sure. That's where our startups should be getting more mileage than us. So that's what the idea. And thanks for doing great works. Yeah.
Thank you, Ramji Garu. Thank you for your all the support that you have been providing us and the AICCC team there. Lakshmi Garu, the final word yours. What are your thoughts?
I can only, encompass whatever Ramji and Dr. Vanita has said. The major problem for a startup is to reach out to people. May I may know whatever is going on in my own field, but the problem is that people do not know us. So we need some kind of a platform where everybody in the world knows that, hey, there is MapGenX who is doing some work in monoclonal antibodies. Do you want to partner with them to maybe get your work done? That kind of exposure is just not possible for a single startup, not just because of the amount of money or the energy that is involved, but also simply because a word of mouth is difficult to reach towards all corners of the world. A platform, something like MyStartupTV, who focuses only on startups to a wider audience around the world, is a very big boon for startups like us. So I thank you for reaching out to us. Thank you.
And thank you, panelists. Thank you for being on our show. You are our first, set of panelists who are coming on our inaugural daily live show. And Dr. Ramjee Garu, thank you very much. Dr. Vinita, Lakshmipati Garu, thank you very much for being on our show. And we hope to see you again on our subsequent biotechnology shows. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks to the world that is witnessing the growth and development of the wonderful ecosystem under the umbrella of One Health. Thank you so much.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.